Hi, boys and girls. Thanks for tuning in to part 7 of Fudge-a-Mania by Judy Bloom. We are now on chapter 13, which is titled Captain Fudge. We have 2 more chapters, so I'll read this chapter today, and then tomorrow we'll finish off the book. All right? Chapter 13, Captain Fudge. "Look at my mittsy," Fudge said early Sunday morning. The 2 of us were on the porch waiting for Grandma to call us into breakfast. She was making pancakes as a special treat. "Doesn't it look good?" He handed his baseball glove to me. "Feel how soft it is." "What'd you do?" I asked. There were dark splotches all over it. "Oiled it, like the man in the store said." "What did you use?" "Guess." I sniffed his glove. There was a familiar smell to it. "I'll give you a hint," he sang. "It's pink." "Pink oil?" "Yes," he said. "You give up?" "Yeah, I definitely give up." "Oil of Olay." He gave me one of his satisfied smiles. "You used oil of Olay on your mitt?" He nodded proudly. "Oil of Olay is for skin, turkey brain. Mom uses it on her face." "I'm not a turkey brain, you're the turkey brain. And you're just jealous because your mitt's not as soft as mine." "Yeah, right. And I'm jealous that my mitt doesn't smell like pink stuff, too." "I like the smell." "I'm glad, because you're going to be smelling it for a long time. What'd you do, use up the whole bottle?" "The man in the store said to oil it every night, remember?" "He said a few drops. And he was talking about neat's foot oil." "What's neat's foot oil?" "That's what you're supposed to use on a baseball glove." I watched the expression on his face change as he got the message. "Never oil of Olay?" he asked in a small voice. I shook my head. Now he was about 2 seconds away from tears. Why didn't I just tell him his glove looks great? Why'd I have to make such a big thing out of it? So I said, "Look, it's not like you did anything wrong. You were just being, I paused, trying to find the right word. "Creative?" he asked. "Yeah, creative." I handed him his glove and went to see what Jimmy was doing. He was still in bed, sound asleep. "Hey, Jimmy, wake up." He rolled over and buried his head under the pillow. "I'm not getting up today," he mumbled, curling himself into a ball. I pulled the covers off him. "The ball game starts at 10 a.m. "What ball game?" "You know what ball game." "Oh, that ball game. I'll probably strike out every time I'm up." "So what?" I said. "It's not every day you get to play with Big Apple." "I never even heard of this guy until you started in on him." "Too bad," I said, "because he's headed for the Hall of Fame." "Says who?" Jimmy asked. "Says me." There were more people at the high school field than I had ever seen in Southwest Harbor, and more dogs than I had ever seen anywhere except in Central Park on a sunny day. Enough dogs for a team of their own. When Sheila saw all those dogs, she screamed and ran back to her father's car. "I'll wait here," she said, slamming the door. "It's going to be a long wait," Mr. Tubman told her. "I don't mind," Sheila said. "I brought a book just in case." "I thought you're not afraid of dogs anymore," I said. "I'm not, once I know them, but strange dogs can give you diseases." "Not if you don't kiss them," I said. "Ha ha." "If you change your mind," Mr. Tubman began. "I'll never change my mind," Sheila told him. Mr. Tubman shook his head, but he didn't force Sheila out of the car. Jimmy and I headed for the field. I stopped in my tracks when I saw this great-looking girl in a red striped t-shirt stretching out near third base. It was Isabel. "That's her," I told Jimmy. He gave me a blank look. "Isabel, from the library," I said. "Really?" Jimmy said. "That's Izzy?" "Yeah, she's incredibly ugly." "What are you, crazy?" I said. "She's beautiful." Jimmy slapped his thigh and laughed. "I got you that time," he said. "Very funny," I told him. There were other familiar faces too. The woman who owns Oz Books was there. I called her Dorothy of Oz, even though that's not her real name. And the butcher from Sawyer's Market. Bicycle Bob was there too. He said, "So, how's the newest member of the ISAF club?" "Great," I told him. "Keeping your mouth shut?" he asked. "I'm trying." "That's the way." He cuffed me on the shoulder. Suddenly, a low murmur ran through the crowd. Everyone looked toward home plate, and there he was, dressed in full Red Sox uniform. Big Apfel in the flesh. I recognized him right away. First, by his height, 6 feet 6 inches without spikes, and second, because he still looks a lot like the picture on his baseball card, except he's gained a few pounds, and now his hair is gray. Everyone gathered around him. You could feel the excitement. Mitzi and Fudge were right in the middle of it, each with an arm around one of Big's legs. I tried to work my way closer, but I got shoved aside by the guy from the hardware store. My heart was pounding. "Please let me be on his team," I prayed. "I'll never ask for another thing if I can just play on his team." Then Big spoke and his voice boomed. "As most of you already know, these old knees aren't what they used to be. I can't take the field or run the bases anymore." He looked right at me and nodded, as if he knew me. "But I can still knock one out of here every now and then." I cheered with the crowd. "So to be fair," Big continued, "I bat for both sides." Everybody cheered again. Everybody except me. "What?" I said. "How can he bat for both sides? That's impossible. That's against the official rules." "When in Rome," some woman who was standing next to me said. I glared at her. She glared back and repeated the whole phrase as if I hadn't gotten it the first time. "When in Rome, When in Rome, do as the Romans do." "I've got news for you," I told her, feeling my face turn hot. "We're not in Rome." "And I've got news for you, Junior," she said. "Rudeness will not be tolerated in this game." "Who's being rude?" I asked. "Cut it out, Peter," Jimmy whispered, grabbing my arm. I shook him off. "Calm down, will you?" he said. "It's just a game." "I suppose you think it's fair for him to bat for both sides." "Yeah, I do." I looked away. My throat felt tight. Big grabbed a fistful of straws, and everyone who wanted to be captain drew one, including Jimmy and me. "Look," Fudge said, holding up a short straw. "I'm captain." Isabel held up the other short straw. "I'm captain too." "I can't believe this," I said. "Maybe she'll pick you for her team," Jimmy said. "Yeah, sure." I wasn't about to admit I was hoping the same thing. "Hey, Izzy," Fudge called. "I'm writing that book. I'm already on chapter 4. "Fantastic," Isabel called back. "Let's go," some guy with a serpent tattoo shouted. "Choose up sides. This is a ball game, not a social hour." Captain Fudge, with his Oil of Olay mitt, got to choose first. So who did he pick? The biggest, strongest-looking player? No, that would have made too much sense. He chose Mitzi. Then it was Isabel's turn. If I were the amazing Kreskin, I'd be able to make her choose me. I concentrated on my name, trying to get the message through her. Peter Warren Hatcher, Peter Warren Hatcher. Isabel looked at me and smiled. Yes, I thought, it's going to work. I closed my eyes. When I did, Isabel chose Tony Ickle. Then Fudge picked me. Goodbye, Isabel. I tried to get him to choose Jimmy next, so at least I'd have a friend on my team. But did he listen? No. And Jimmy wound up on Isabel's team. Nothing was working out the way I'd planned. Absolutely nothing. Our side took the field. When in Rome was on first base. I was on second, and Buzzy Sr. was on third. Fudge and Mitzi stood right next to each other at shortstop, and Dad was on the mound. Isabel's team lined up. Tony Ickle was their first batter. Dad threw a fastball, but it was wild. He threw 6 more before he settled down. Lucky for us, it's a no-walk game. Tony popped up the first one that crossed the plate. It came toward me. I was ready for it, but I took my eye off the ball just for a second, just to make sure Big Apple was watching. When I did, the ball dropped at my feet. I picked it up and panicked. My throw to first went over the head of one in Rome. "Wake up, Junior," she yelled. "Where are your eyes? In the back of your head?" I could feel everyone staring at me. I swallowed hard and blinked back tears. If only I could do it over, I know I'd make the catch. "It's all right, Peter," Dad said. "We all make mistakes." Sure, I thought, but we don't all make two on the first play of the game. My legs were shaking and I felt Grandma's pancakes bouncing around in my stomach. Before the first half of the first inning was over, Isabel's team had 5 runs and Big hadn't even come up. When he did, he slammed one out of sight and 2 more runs scored. Finally, it was our turn at bat. Bicycle Bob was on the mound for Isabel's team, and he put every pitch right down the middle. By the time I came up, we had 2 on and 2 out. Okay, I thought, this is it. This is my big chance. I can make up for my errors now. All I have to do is concentrate. I stood up to the plate. Bicycle Bob wasn't going to get anything by me. I could feel Big watching. I could feel him thinking, this guy might have potential after all. Bicycle Bob wound up and threw the first pitch. I took a huge cut and missed, spinning all the way around. "It's Fudge-a-Mania!" Mitzi sang. "No, it's not," Fudge told her. "It's a strike." "Oh," Mitzi said, disappointed. I took another swing and missed again. "Keep your eye on the ball, Pete," Fudge called. Just what I needed. My 5-year-old brother giving me tips at the plate. Bicycle Bob threw the next pitch. This time, I was ready for it. I heard the crack of the bat as it connected with the ball. It was a good, strong shot. But wait, it was headed straight for Grandma, who was playing deep at third. "Run!" my team yelled. I ran for first, trying to keep my eye on Grandma at the same time. I hoped the ball wouldn't knock her down. But I worried for nothing, because Grandma jumped with her glove held high. She made a fantastic catch. I was out. Isabel's team cheered. "Thanks a lot, Grandma." Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, they did. We were back in the fields. Isabel came up to the plate. She's one of those players who wiggles the bat. Actually, she wiggles more than the bat, but I tried not to notice. She knocked a slow grounder right at Mitzi, but Mitzi knew what to do. She had her glove on the ground and her legs together so the ball couldn't get through. She stopped it. She picked it up. "Look!" she called, showing everyone. "I got the ball!" "Throw!" we all yelled at her. She looked confused, then threw the ball to Fudge, who was standing right next to her. By then, Isabel was on her way to second. "Here!" I yelled to Fudge. But instead of throwing the ball, he ran it over and personally handed it to me. By then, Isabel was on her way to third. "Throw, Peter!" Buzzy Sr. yelled. But I was scared I'd throw it away again, so I decided to fake a throw instead, and it worked. Isabel headed back to second. When she realized I still had the ball, she turned and tried for third again. We had her trapped between the bases. There was only one sure way to get her out, so I ran after her. It wasn't my fault she changed directions again, and we collided, falling to the ground together. "This isn't football," she shouted. Then she shut up, brushed herself off, and marched off the field. "Yeah, Izzy!" Fudge cheered. "She's on the other team," I told him. "You're supposed to cheer for me. I'm the one who tagged her out." "Yeah, Pete!" he and Mitzi cheered, jumping up and down. They were the only ones who did. As if that weren't enough, in the final inning, Jimmy hit a perfect double to left field, and Big shouted, "Way to go, son!" I thought Big wasn't supposed to root for either team. I thought he was supposed to stay neutral. Finally, the game was over. Captain Fudge didn't mind that his team lost 26-8. or that he struck out every time he came to bat. He and Jimmy yacked all the way home. They sang, "Take me out to the ball game." They made plans for next Sunday's game. "I thought you have to leave on Thursday," I said. "Nah," my dad said. "As long as the weather's good, we can stay a long while together." "Great," I said, but I wasn't sure I meant it. "Big says I have real potential," Jimmy told me. "He says I just have to build up my confidence. He says once I have confidence, there won't be any stopping me. I might even be headed for the majors." "Great," I said again. Now I know how Dad felt yesterday on the boat, like a real loser. "And it's all thanks to you, Peter," Jimmy said, dropping his arm over my shoulder. "If you hadn't forced me out of bed this morning, none of this would have happened. You're really my best friend." "And you're my best brother," Fudge said, planting a sticky kiss on my face. Maybe I'm not such a loser, I thought. Maybe today just wasn't my day. But next Sunday could be completely different. Next Sunday, I might make a fantastic catch and hit a grand slam home run. Anything's possible in baseball. This time, when Jimmy and Fudge started another round of Take Me Out to the Ball Game, I sang with them. Mom hit the shower as soon as we got home, and when she came out, she called Fudge. She called, "Fudgy, where's my oil of Olay?" "Mr. Zoomin took it, Mom," Fudge said. Mr. Zoomin is the guy who picks up the trash twice a week. "Why would Mr. Zoomin have taken my oil of Olay?" "Because the bottle was empty." Fudge was trying a red banana around Turtle's neck. All the dogs at the game wore bandanas. Sorry, I meant bandanas. "But it was a brand new bottle," Mom said. "It was still empty, Mom." "But you said you only needed a few drops for Mitzi." "Not Mitzi," Fudge said. "My Mitzi." "Your what?" Mom asked. "You know, my baseball glove." "You used my oil of Olay on your baseball glove?" Fudge undid the bandana from Turtle's neck and tied it around his leg instead. Turtle barked. "You used all my oil of Olay on your Mitzi?" Mom asked. "Right," Fudge said. "I can't believe this," Mom said to herself. "All my oil of Olay." "Olay," Uncle Feather said as Sheila came into the room. "Olay." "I didn't know your bird speaks Spanish," Sheila said. "He doesn't," I told her. "But I just heard him say Olay." Sheila went over to Uncle Feather's cage and snapped her fingers. "Olay," she sang. "Olay, Olay," Uncle Feather sang back. "You see," Sheila told me. "It's not that kind of Olay," I said. "It's Olay." "How could you possibly know that?" Sheila asked. "Believe me, I know." So since there's only a few more pages left in the last chapter, I'm just going to go ahead and finish it off. So this is chapter 14, The Ring Bear. The Ring Bear. "Big news," Mr. Fargo announced 2 days later. "My dealer in New York loves the idea of baby feet. I'm going to do a whole series of baby feet paintings. And when I'm done, there'll be a show at a gallery in Soho. You'll all have to come." He picked up Tootsie and shook her. "We're gonna be famous, Tootsie Pie!" "How about rich, Dad?" Jimmy asked. "Could we get just a little bit rich while you're at it?" "You never know," Mr. Fargo said, and for the second time that week he laughed. If Mr. Fargo gets rich on Tootsie's footprints, will Tootsie get something too? I wondered. "That's wonderful news, Frank," Mom said. "Speaking of wonderful news," Grandma said. She and Buzzy Sr. stood with their arms around each other. "Buzzy and I," Grandma looked at him and smiled. "There's only one way to say it," Buzzy Sr. said. Then he cleared his throat and began to sing. "Who can explain it? Who can tell you why?" Grandma joined him on the next line. "Fools give you reasons, wise men never try." "Mother," Mom said, "what are you trying to tell us?" "Why, Ann dear," Grandma said, "I thought it was obvious. Buzzy and I are in love. We're going to be married." "Married?" Mom and Dad said. Married? Mr. and Mrs. Tubman said. Yes, Buzzy Sr. said, married. Isn't this kind of sudden? Mom said. It may seem that way to you, Grandma said, but at our age, sudden is okay. It's not as if we haven't met each other's families, is it? She and Buzzy Sr. laughed. When is this marriage going to take place? Mom asked. Oh, I don't know, Grandma said. Maybe tomorrow or the next day. Tomorrow, Mr. Tubman said. That soon? Well, yes, Grandma said. While we're all here together in Maine. Couldn't you wait? Mom asked. I suppose we could wait until next weekend, Grandma said. Mom and Mr. Tubman looked like they were in shock. I expected them to fall over any second. Grandpa, Libby said, what exactly does this mean? Does this mean I'm going to be related to the Hatchers? Related? I said. Related? Sheila cried, Grandpa, you can't do this to me. And I cried, Grandma, you can't do this to me. Jimmy just stood there laughing, and Fudge looked confused. So I don't have to marry Sheila because we're getting related anyway? Right, Grandma said. I can't believe any of this, Sheila wailed. Don't worry, honey, Fudge said. I'll get you some of Mitzi's monster spray. Well, Mr. Fargo said, this calls for a toast. Didn't I see a bottle of champagne on ice? Good thinking, Frank, Buzzy Sr. said. So there's going to be a wedding in Maine after all. Except Sheila and Fudge aren't going to be the bride and groom. Grandma and Buzzy Sr. are. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I like Buzzy Sr. and I'm glad Grandma's happy. But does this mean we'll have to spend every holiday with the Tubmans? Does it mean I'm stuck with Sheila as my step-something for the rest of my life? That night, everyone sat around making wedding plans. Even Mom and Mr. Tubman got involved. I guess it just took them more time than the rest of us to get used to the idea of his father marrying her mother. We want to keep it very simple, Grandma said. Something informal, outside, under the trees. Teas, Tootsie said. Yes, Sweetie Pie, Grandma said. Trees. She bounced Tootsie on her lap. Muriel, Sheila said, can Libby and I be your bridesmaids? I'd be honored, Grandma said. I've always wanted to be a bridesmaid, Sheila gushed, but we need dresses. Long, fluffy dresses. Maybe pink or lavender? Oh, let's not bother with dresses, Grandma said. But all we have up here are jeans, Sheila said. We can't be bridesmaids in jeans. You can if you're creative, Grandma told her. What about me? Fudge said. I'm creative. Can I be a bridesmaid too? You can be the ring bearer, Grandma said. What's the ring bearer? It's not like a bird breather, I told him. It's like a bird breather, I told him. Really? He asked. No, Mom said. Peter's just being very silly. The ring bearer carries the rings, Grandma said, on a pretty little pillow. What rings? Fudge asked. The wedding rings, Turkey Brain. I thought you knew all about getting married. All I know is you get to sleep in the same bed. That's the best part, Buzzy Sr. said. Mom shook her head. Really, Buzzy? Grandma and Buzzy Sr. decided on a Saturday morning wedding so they wouldn't interfere with the Sunday ball game. Every time they went to town, they invited someone else. Mom said they had to tell her how many people were coming and soon. How else could she plan the wedding barbecue? Oh, just figure everyone is coming, Grandma said. Everyone? Mom said. What does that mean? It meant the guy from the hardware store, the butcher from Sawyer's Market, Dorothy of Oz, and the couple from the jewelry store who sold them their wedding rings. It meant the Ickles from the ice cream parlor, Bicycle Bob, Isabel from the library, and Mitzi, Mrs. A, and Big. Mom worried about the weather, but when we woke up on Saturday morning, it was clear and warm. We all helped decorate the yard. We tied pink ribbons around the swing trees and set pots of pink flowers in Fudge's garden. Sheila and Libby showed how creative they could be by sewing beads and ribbons all over their jeans and t-shirts. At the last minute, Sheila decided we should dress up our animals too. She tied a pink satin bow around Jake's neck. Then she asked me to tie one around Turtle's. You do it, I said. I'm not that good with bows. I can't do it, Sheila said. Why not? You know, because he's too smelly and disgusting for you to touch? He's not that smelly anymore. Then why can't you do it? Sheila took a deep breath. All right, she said. I'll do it, but you have to hold him still. I think Sheila's still scared of Turtle. But now that he and Jake are going to be stepdogs, she's making an effort to get along with him. Turtle wasn't crazy about having a pink satin bow tied around his neck. He tried to eat it. Next, Sheila decorated Uncle Feather's cage. Olay, she said, snapping her fingers. Olay, he answered. The guests began to arrive at 10:30. Big wore his Red Sox uniform, but not his spikes. He gave Grandma and Buzzy Sr. an autographed baseball for a wedding present. Mitzi brought them a bottle of Monster Spray, just in case, and she had one for Fudge, too. Grandma just made it, she said, so it's nice and fresh. Actually, the bride and groom got a lot of interesting gifts. Matching bike helmets from Bicycle Bob, a book called How to Survive Your First Year of Marriage from Isabel, a set of hand-painted rocks from Sheila and Libby, a painting called Baby Feet Go to a Wedding from Mr. Fargo, the only copy in the entire world of Tell Me a Fudge by Farley Drexel Hatcher, and a 25-foot banner from Jimmy and me. We'd been working on it all week. It said, "Who can explain it? Who can tell you why? Muriel and Buzzy, August 28th, Southwest Harbor, Maine." Grandma and Buzzy Sr. liked it a lot, even though we forgot to include the year. Grandma said it was better that way. Just before the ceremony, Fudge asked Mitzi to help him be the ring bearer. He showed her the lace pillow with the gold wedding bands resting on it. Then he whispered something in her ear, and they giggled. The judge was the last one to arrive. She pulled up in a shiny red pickup truck, wearing her judge's robe. She looked familiar, but I couldn't remember where I'd seen her until she said, "What are you doing here, Junior?" It was When in Rome. "You're the judge?" I said. "That's right, Junior." "My name is Peter," I told her, "not Junior, and my grandmother is the bride." "Well, isn't that something?" she said. "I hope you behave yourself today." "When in Rome," I told her. This time she laughed. The ceremony began a few minutes after 11. The bride wore a white jogging suit. She bought it at the sports store where Fudge got his Mitzi. She had a pink flower tucked behind her ear. The groom wore a black jogging suit. He had a pink flower pinned to his sweatshirt. They kept smiling at each other. When in Rome started off by reading some love poem. I almost laughed because I had this picture in my mind of her playing first base in her judge's robe. Then she just got down to the important stuff like the "Do you take?" question. She asked Grandma first, "Do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Grandma said, "I do." After that, Buzzy Sr. was supposed to place the ring on her finger, but just as he was about to take it from the lace pillow, the ring bearer and his helpers sang, "Surprise!" and they started twirling, holding the pillow between them. We were surprised, all right, because as they twirled, the rings flew off the pillow and landed somewhere in the grass. "Uh-oh," the ring bearer said. Everyone got down on their hands and knees to search. "Suppose we can't find them?" Sheila asked. "Can Muriel and Grandpa still get married?" "Don't worry," When in Rome said. "I'm here to marry them one way or another." "Here's one," Dorothy of Oz called, holding up a gold band. It took a few more minutes before Bicycle Bob found the other. "Okay," When in Rome said. "Let's give it another try, and this time no surprises." She looked at Mitzi and the ring bearer. "But surprises are fun," Mitzi said. "Next time you try that kind of surprise, you're going to be getting a big surprise from me," she told them. They got the message. On the second try, everything worked. When in Rome pronounced Grandma and Buzzy Sr. husband and wife. Then they kissed and everyone cheered. Well, almost everyone. A few people, like Mom, got teary-eyed. The wedding barbecue was a huge success. Big helped Dad and Mr. Tubman tend the grills. Tony Ickle had brought gallons of ice cream, and Mrs. A had baked a blueberry wedding cake. So we all wound up with blue teeth. All except Fudge. He still won't go near a blueberry. The party lasted for hours. Everyone was having too much fun to go home. Finally, the bride and groom fell asleep on lawn chairs. I knew how they felt because I was pooped out too. Only the Fudge-a-Maniacs were still going strong. Sheila yawned and sat next to me on the porch steps. "Wasn't that the most beautiful wedding?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "It was the best wedding I've ever seen. It was also the only wedding I've ever seen." Sheila smiled at me. "I just want you to know, Peter," she said in her kissy face voice, "that even if we are related, I'll always hate you." "That's a relief," I said, "because I'll always hate you too." "Promise?" she asked. "Promise," I said. "Let's shake on it." I put out my hand, she grabbed it, then we shook. And that is the end of Fudge-a-Mania by Judy Blume.